Hey guys! We're gonna wait a second for everybody to join us. What's going on? Today we're gonna be talking about pleasure and mindfulness. I hope you guys are super excited. I'm about to bring on my friend Rachel. We just recorded a podcast episode all about this, and here she is. Hope you guys are having a good day today. Hey, Jemiah. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Rachel.
Hi, I'm here.
What's going on, girl?
Oh, not much. Happy
Yeah.
Tuesday. I voted today. That's exciting.
Yes, I dropped my vote last week, so I felt really good about that.
Yes, I love
Vote
that.
early, guys.
Yes, it was I just dropped it in the ballot drop box. It literally took 2 seconds.
Done.
And even
Super easy.
my friends that I know, they're like going to the polls. They said the lines haven't been long at all. Like most of my friends have been like, yeah, the polls are really quick to get in and out of right now. So,
Yeah.
eh,
All right. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm really, really
me
excited for this
too.
conversation. Um, Manishu was like, "Say namaste, namaste." I don't know if I can say,
Namaste.
if I'm allowed to say that, but I'll say it if you ask.
Yeah.
Um, Welcome, guys. Let us know where you're from. We're going to be talking all about pleasure today and mindfulness and enjoying our bodies and finding, space for lots of self-love. So I think this is going to be awesome. So Rachel, tell us first of all a little bit about you and kind of like what you do and all the juicy goodness of where you're coming from.
Yeah, my story kind of started in my early 20s. I actually left evangelical cult and kind of started out on my own and figuring out a lot of the world that was outside of anything I'd ever experienced. And that was about 10 years ago. And along like my journey of leaving, I really found this avenue of healing and pleasure. And so that kind of started this journey like, oh, there's healing through pleasure. Let me kind of continue to like see what else this can lead to, right? How much can I heal
Mm.
from this? And so it was like more and more in depth. And then I recently decided that I was going to go to back to school. So I'm finishing my degree for somatica, sex and intimacy coaching, and I'm starting my
Yes.
coaching practice to be a somatica sexual reclamation coach. So to really help people who feel shame, who feel trauma, who feel any type of disassociation from sex and their sexuality, like that's what I'm here to help you heal. So and
Mm.
really get back into your bodies.
Yes, who here wants to have great sex with themselves and maybe partner or partners? Yes.
Me.
I think we all deserve to have a really great, healthy, loving, pleasurable relationship with our bodies. And it's interesting how these kinds of early childhood experiences, be it trauma or even trauma later on, but
Yeah.
living in a really religious environment or living in a house where maybe sex is really shunned or it's something you don't talk about or there's a lot of shame, especially for women. I think, it's
Yes.
now we're talking about it more than ever, but it's a really tricky subject. And I know for me, there was a very long time that I really denied myself pleasure with my body because it just
Mhm.
felt like too intimate sometimes and also
Yeah.
like too real. Like it's easy to stay in your head, but when you get in your body, stuff happens. And I think that is
Yes.
it's like for a reason. I mean,
Well, and as women, like for so long, we've been taught not to trust our bodies. Like, think about even as we're a little kid, right? Maybe we don't want to hug someone, but our parents are like, you should hug that person because that's your uncle, right? You're taught
Yeah.
that you can't trust your body. Or think about even hugging, but also like uh, you can't um, you can't go out with this, say, in a heterosexual relationship. You can't go out with this boy because he might take advantage of your body. So you're
Mm,
constantly told these messages, whether it's religious or just growing up and being like socialized female,
yeah.
that you can't trust your body. And when you can't trust your body and there's this huge fear with your body, how are you supposed to experience pleasure if you're scared of your body because you've never been able to trust it?
Mm, that's so true and something I think that rings really home for me. I think, what comes to mind is like the fact that we have been so conditioned to fight our bodies, to hate our bodies, to loathe
Yes.
them, to judge them, that there really isn't any room for love. I don't really know, like, very many times growing up where the message, the dominant cultural message, or the message, even though my mom was like, oh, you're beautiful, but the dominant messages that I was getting were, you're too fat, you need to like skinny up, you need to look a certain way, like men are not going to be attracted to you, if that's even, I wasn't even asked if that's who I was attracted to, but they
Right.
assumed, and like the object of the male gaze, which is like, whoa, like, very insidious. And I think puts a mental block in programming in giving us, you know, it prevents us from being able to feel fully able to explore these different parts of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because, right, like I come from this like hyper religious background, but most of the women I work with and even men, they have similar trauma because like welcome to the world where a lot of our trauma comes from the fact that our societies are built in different religions, right? Even if you didn't grow up religion, all of our societies are founded on certain religions. So those religious practices can still cause trauma for people that aren't necessarily in that religion, right?
Yeah.
Most of my friends were a part of purity culture or at some point said like I'm going to save myself for my husband, but a lot of them weren't in church. It was just kind of a message that was growing up. Like, you, as a woman, to be a good woman, I should be a virgin. Like, virginity
Mm.
equals goodness, you know?
Yeah, and there's something I actually, oh my God, I don't know if this was where I saw this, but I think it might have been The Daily Show, or like Trevor Noah did, or John Oliver did something about this, but he was showing these clips of these like father-daughter purity, like agreement dances, things that like where like a daughter pledges her virginity to her father, and then they all get dressed up and they dance together. Did you do that? Did you do that?
Yes.
Wow. I
I
mean,
like,
I'm
thought it
not
was
like,
normal.
yeah. I mean, I'm not here to judge, but I think from an outsider's perspective, it's very shocking. It's like,
It's,
wow, we're
I mean,
told we can't even, that belongs to our dads,
it's
like,
fucked up.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's super fucked up when you think about it. Like, yes, I went to one of those. I totally know what you're, because I witnessed it firsthand, and it was interesting because one of the examples they gave us of what it would be like if we weren't virgins for our husband was they asked, the like MC asked five fathers to come up, because of course it has to be men, right? To come up, and he had a box that was like all wrapped up in this beautiful present. And he's like, now I want each of you to go down the line and rip a piece of this off, rip a piece of the wrapping off. And when I got to the end, he was like, who here wants this present? No one wants a
Oh,
present that's been ripped up and used. This is what it's like if you have sex before marriage. No one's going to want you. Like, how traumatizing is that? Like, that's a very direct message, but a lot of us as women, even if we didn't grow in the church, we subconsciously heard similar messages like that around our worth being our virginity, or our worth being a low number of sexual partners, or
mm,
our worth being like we've only had sex with people we love, right? Instead of just like
yeah,
your worth is in who you are as a person, has
yeah,
nothing to do
absolutely.
with that.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. And I think like it's interesting that virginity and like wherever we are in our sexual journey is somehow a measure of our worth, or like our
Yes.
capabilities as a human being, or like anything like that, which is fucking nuts. Excuse my language. Um,
Yeah.
but no, someone had commented, oh, Marissa, hey, Marissa. She said that in school, one guy was pulled up on stage and praised for wearing a purity ring, and they were told that anyone who wasn't wearing one was a sinner. Loved high school, LOL.
Mm.
Yeah, that sounds really, really, really like
That's
something.
super traumatic. That's intense trauma. When especially when you're a teenager and you're like your hormones are raging and you should be like discovering yourself and loving yourself and figuring out how to value and honor yourself. It shouldn't be something that you're taught to fear, because when we fear something, that's when bad things happen. It should be
Yeah.
celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, I love this. So now the work that you do, I mean, you come from this background where you've experienced a kind of trauma, and multiple traumas, I would say, and then you've
Yeah.
figured out somewhere along the route how to reconnect with your body, because there's so much disconnection with this kind of upbringing. So like what were some things that you did, or if you can, or suggestions you have if we're kind of in a space where we're just starting and we're a little scared and we're not really sure how to approach, how to reconnect with our bodies in this way.
Well, I think like a lot of women, I like spent so much of my early upbringing hating my body. Like, so add like trauma around sex and sexuality and it being sinful to the fact that you're just a woman and you're taught to hate your body and what you look like there was a lot of shame around that. And so it was like I recovered from an eating disorder. Then I like went to rehab for in college. Like there were so many points in my life where I was just so out of touch with my body. And coming back into touch with my body and like healing myself and loving myself, it all came down to pleasure. Like it really did. When I started like exploring my body and loving my body, it changed my life. And here's like some examples. So like at first, whenever people are like, look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, don't tell yourself that, because it's a lie and you shouldn't lie to yourself. So
I agree. It's like, well, you're asking someone to go from 0 to 100. Like,
yes,
we have to start small.
exactly. And so like for a long time, I couldn't say I love myself. So I would look in the mirror and I would just like touch different parts of my body and say thank you. So I'd like touch my heart and be like, thank you for beating today. And I would touch my like eyes and be like, thank you for seeing today. And touch my legs and be like, thank you for moving for me today and getting me out of bed. And it started just as thankfulness because I couldn't say I love my body, you know? And some days I'd say like that was probably started when I was like 23, 24, I'm 29 now. And so most days now I would say I can look in the mirror and be like, yeah, you're fucking hot and I love you.
Yes!
Yes. But on days when I don't have that, it's really easy to go back to okay, I'm going to thank my body. Like, I'm just going to thank my body. Like,
yeah.
it is so powerful, like, to thank your heart. I'm not even kidding. Like, your heart is your one organ that literally never stops working. And have you ever told it thank you? Like, your heart is literally never stops. It's never going to stop on you, or until it does. But that's like a different story. But like for day to day, it's not going to stop on you.
And you're here right now. It hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah, it hasn't stopped.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really powerful point, gratitude. And I think also what comes to mind for me is mindfulness, right? And this practice of, for me, it was very similar. And I came about this kind of gratitude for smaller parts of my body to get started on my healing journey through my meditation training. And the body scan meditation was such a powerful thing for me because I had never, part of it was like we did the body scan outside the body, but I never actually done a scan internally. I don't know if any of y'all who are watching have ever done, or you have ever done like an internal body scan, but it's like another level of awareness. Yeah. And it's like, you know, you go into your body and you kind of like just focus and bring your attention to like your heart and your organs and like your stomach, like your innards and like your gastrointestinal tract and like your spine and like all of the musculature that's like deep within your body and your organs and how hard they work for you on a daily basis. And starting off with that attitude of gratitude, as like cheesy as it sounds, because it starts with just like acceptance and acknowledgement, and then we grow love from there.
Yeah, and that's actually, I love that you brought that up because that's like actually how I start all my sessions is like we do 10 to 20 minutes of embodiment breathing. And so it really is that internal check. Like I'll be like, okay, I want you to feel the muscles in your fingertips. And like, so we go from fingers to arm to neck down to your pelvic floor. And once we reach our pelvic floor, we breathe in and out of our pelvic floor. And then we're kind of ready for the session because embodiment changes everything. And like you can't, like it does, it just changes everything. And so I can't have a session if I don't start out with getting myself and my client into their body so that we can really heal, right?
Yeah. And there was something else you brought up when you and I were recording our podcast. So she was on the Conscious Leadership podcast. Her episode is coming out, I think, in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. But we were talking about this and you had brought up a kind of just this simple touching your skin and just like being like, ooh, like how does this feel? And like after we got off that podcast recording, I like laid in bed and I like took all my clothes off and I was like, my skin is so soft and like my body's amazing. Like that is like such a fun practice, you guys. Like if you are home alone, like get naked and just like feel how awesome your body like feels, like everything, and just give it like a little bit of that like nice love.
Give it some love. Like your body is working for you all day. Love on it. And it's so true. Like, and for a long time when I was learning to love my body, I didn't want to masturbate because I hated my vulva, because I was so disgusted by everything that I was. And so that gratitude practice definitely it turned into kind of that sensation practice, which turned into self-pleasure, and this incredible self-pleasure practice where I've like literally never felt more like a goddess, more in charge, more in love, and more happy with my life than after I adopted this pleasure practice. But yeah, for people that are asking us, another thing I really do with clients for embodiment is like, one of the exercises I do is like 5 minutes of touching for your own pleasure. And it's literally like, I would just guide you and be like, what does that feel like? Tell me how that feels in your body. Like, explain the sensations. And so like, you can start with your hand and just like softly caressing it and like feel how much energy that's creating. Like, that's intense.
Yeah. Especially when
like,
you're focusing on just
yeah.
that.
And then you can do different things, like play with the back of your neck. Like, how does this feel?
Yeah.
Like, do I like I realized I really like a lot of sensation, and then like a grab or a scratch, like that, those mix of sensations feels really good on my skin. And then I also like, in this practice, I realized I love my collarbones, which is so like such a strange thing, but I'll just like do like
they're
this.
so they're sexy.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you think like collarbones are sexy. Let us know.
I think they're
I think they're super sexy too.
Yeah, and so I'll do that, and I'll do that with my body a lot of times. And so a lot of times that is my pleasure practice. Like, I dedicate 15 minutes a day in pleasure, and like that looks like different things sometimes. A lot of times I'll say it's like masturbation, because I do love to masturbate, but a lot of times it's also like, oh, I'm just gonna like braid my hair and like massage my scalp as I do that. That feels really good. Or I'm gonna go for a really long walk today and not have a time limit and bring a glass of wine with me and just like have this like nice relaxing walk, right? Or I'm going to do yoga, like a big, like I used to be so into yoga, and then when quarantine happened, I just got kind of lazy, and I'm getting back into my practice, and I'm remembering how much pleasure my body feels when I stretch it and move it in those ways. And so there's so many ways to experience pleasure, but very few of us do it intentionally.
Yeah, that's a really important point. It's intentional, you know, and if we're in this journey, if we're healing, right? If we're trying to get where we want to go in our own process, we can't just intellectualize everything. And this is so funny, because this is something I was like, who was I talking about this with? This is my problem. I tend to love to intellectualize things and like not sit in my body. And like, for me, like it's an active daily practice of like, okay, like today I sat in my office and I just like read like these cards, and I felt really moved, and like I allowed myself to just like release, and I cried and cried and cried. And like afterwards, like I felt so good. I was like, oh,
I love
like,
that.
thank God I got that out. But it's that embodiment of like, what does your body need, and like how can you harness the power of your own energies, you know, so that we can, you know, through pleasure, through release, so that we can actually maintain our sanity and like live life and be happy.
Totally, absolutely. It's like, it's so powerful. I love that example, because I also did the same thing today. I was like working, and I had like just some really overwhelmed with like, you know, when you have like a bunch of little overwhelm and you get to that point where you like drop the pen and you have a total panic attack over something really small because
you
it's
throw
just
like
all
technology at the wall.
Yeah. Like a magnet falls off the fridge and you're like, fuck, I can't handle it anymore. Yeah. So I was like getting to that point and realizing like, okay, I've got to release this, because I am getting like, there's too much little things, and I need to just like cry it out and release the energy and move on. And I also had a very good cry today, but I allowed myself to do that. And I like gave myself time. Like, you're going to turn off your computer, you're going to turn off your phone, you're just going to go lay down and cry. And I'm going to give you time to do that.
I love that. And it sounds to me like really the definition of pleasure is your definition. So, you know, whatever you feel brings you that sense of calm, ease, joy, fulfillment, like whatever those little, it could be as small as like going for like a little walk with your glass of wine or your tea or whatever, and just enjoying the sensations of being present. It could be a self-pleasure practice. It could be many things. So whatever that means to you, you know, make it personal and it'll work for you.
Totally. Yeah. And that's what I tell clients too. Like, whatever, there's a big difference between walking your dog because your dog has to go to the bathroom, and walking your dog because you really want to be outside and smell the air and look at the leaves and watch the houses. Like, those are two very different walks. Like, one is like has to be done. Otherwise, your dog will use the bathroom inside. The other is like, I'm choosing to do this because I want to experience pleasure on the way. So, like, a lot of daily tasks we do, we can turn them into pleasure, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think like something that really got me through a really busy and difficult time when I was building my business, working 9 to 5 and interning was literally any kind of free little moment I had, I made it pleasurable. If I had to be sitting at my fucking desk in this horrible office all day, I had a diffuser, I had like nice classical music and things playing in my
Yes.
ears, I had like a blanket, I had like all these nice things to make it pleasurable. If I knew I was gonna have an hour long break, I'm like, let me get food that makes me feel really good, and then let me like get
Yes.
outside and like smell the air, and it's like
Yes.
it's injecting those little conscious moments of joy and like pleasure and intentional joy seeking that like actually make your life feel it makes it feel so good and makes you so much more resilient for the other things that come up.
Yeah, and I love that like we're talking about this because this is also why I very much differentiate between masturbation and self-pleasure, right? Because like masturbation, a lot of people do it as like, oh, I'm stressed out, I want to go to a bed, or like they're just kind of bored. It's very like not a lot of people spend intentional time
It's
in
very robotic and
self-pleasure.
like goal oriented, like
Right,
the
and it's
rest of
like
our
goal
culture.
oriented, which like I'm just gonna say this here. There is no goal with self pleasure. You should not have a goal of orgasm. You should just have a goal to enjoy your body. Like that's exactly
Yes.
what it should be. Like I was masturbating or self pleasuring the other day for like 30 minutes, and it was awesome, and I didn't have an orgasm, and I like loved every minute of it. I was like, I'm relaxed. This feels great. I love my body. I look hot. Like I just felt so good afterwards,
Yeah.
and I felt so like just like I don't know how else to describe it, but just like a goddess. Like I just felt like, yes, I'm amazing.
Yes. Well, like we all know, like the Yoni is a magic portal to all different dimensions. Like, let's be real.
Yep.
And the more love you give it, the more energy it gives you back. And honestly, like if you guys like have not done a self-pleasure practice in a while, like just try it, just try it. Whatever like you need to do, like do
Yeah.
it because you're going to harness energy, power, confidence, and it's going to change your life. And even if it's just simply, like you said, showing gratitude for certain parts of your body, like thanking parts of your body and starting really small,
Yeah.
and then working your way up to all the other things, start today because there is no time to waste in loving yourself and figuring out how to get reconnected with your body.
Yeah. And I'm gonna do a self pleasure practice challenge next week. So
Oh, you are? Oh my God, tell me
yeah.
about this.
So next week, I figured it was going to be a really good week. I know you and I talked about it, Gabby, but then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yes, it has to be next week because there was the election. Also, just like energy wise, astrology wise, there's like a lot of shit happening right now. Like, there's just a lot of intense energy happening in our world.
Yeah.
And then we have our like very intense, much like thought about election happening next week. So I was like, I need to do something that can kind of get people's mind off of it. And so I was like, this is a great way. So I'm going to have a pleasure challenge next week. I'm going to be going live every day, and I'll post the times on my static feed and also on my stories. But it's going to be a challenge to spend an hour in pleasure that week. And you can
Mm.
decide what that is, but you have to spend an hour in pleasure. So you could do like 5 minutes a couple times and 30 minutes, or you could do 10 minutes for 6 days, whatever you want, but an hour in purposeful pleasure. And so,
I
like, yes,
love
that can
it.
be self pleasure. That can also just be like touching your collarbones and being like, I'm sexy. That can be an intentional walk with a dog. It can be making cookies. Like, whatever it is that you need next week, because I think we're all going to need something, spend time in that intentionally.
I
So,
totally am with you 100% on that. You guys sign up for her challenge. It's free. It's going to be amazing. Actually, I don't think there's a sign up. Just go to her, follow her on Instagram and check her out all of next week.
yeah,
Because yeah, like it's also, again, you and I are such social justice babies. Like this is like an act of fucking resistance, like learning how to like claim your pleasure as a woman, to
yes,
give yourself as a human being the space to indulge in things that make you happy. Learning how to like just accept and be present and live from that space is an act of resistance because
pleasure.
everyone else it fears
Yes,
what. Yeah, like we want to like fear can we can throw that out the window. We can focus on the pleasure and the joy, and that is resistance.
Literally, pleasure is an act of resistance. That's a chapter in my new book. That's like, that
Is
is
it
what it
really?
is. Like, yeah. It's like
I love
pleasure,
it.
like, because you're saying, like, no, I'm not going to fall in line with this idea that everything I have to do has to be robotic and performatory, right? We have this
Yeah.
idea that everything in life, in order to be successful, it has to be performatory and there has to be a positive outcome, right? Pleasure doesn't really have a tangible outcome. I can't go to someone and be like, oh, look, I self-pleasured for an hour today, and because of that, my house is clean, right? Or, like, it doesn't have this tangible
I love
outcome.
that. No, it's
So,
true. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's why we don't see it as important, because we're in this productive society where everything we do has to have an outcome, and it has to be good. If you're type A, it has to be perfect, like me. And so to say, like, fuck all of that, I'm just going to spend time with something that doesn't have an external outcome necessarily, but has an internal outcome, that's an act of resistance.
Oh, yes. Say it louder for the people in the back. No, absolutely. Like joy is my mom always used to say this. She was like, joy and happiness are the ultimate revenge.
Yes. Yes.
Like
Yes.
living a life and being happy and living a life that where you're in joy and you have the people around you that really support you and you found a space for yourself to love and support yourself. Like that is the best revenge. That's the best act of resistance you could ever do.
Absolutely. What's like more intimidating than a woman who loves and celebrates herself? Like, that's such a good
Oh
thing.
shit.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're seeing what the result is. We're seeing more leaders. To be honest with you, I think there's
Yeah.
a direct fucking correlation between this self-love, self-healing movement for women and this like self-discovery, self-awakening moment that's happening,
Yeah.
and then this push to become leaders, to have businesses, to just get the
Yes.
fuck out there and just stop being so scared of our own shadow.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so beautiful to watch. Like, even I
Mm-hmm.
see like younger and younger women joining, and it's so exciting. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so awesome to see like women that are in their 20s that want to work with me, and it's like, oh wow, like I don't think I would have been doing this at your age. Like, it's really cool. This movement is happening and people are changing and people are wanting more healing earlier and realizing what society and religion or our parents or whatever has done to us, and like want to
Mm.
heal from it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this would be like a great like segue right into what I was going to ask you, which is like how do people work with you? And I think like
Oh, yeah.
specifically like as someone who's a survivor of rape and also various sexual like assaults
Yeah.
and things that have happened, I know that like there are a lot of women out there like me who have really struggled to like get back into their sexuality, to make it a safe space, make their body a safe place, and to feel comfortable with this. And I know that's something you specifically work on. So I wanted to just like, first of
Yeah.
all, like just point out to that even if you've experienced some trauma or you have like a really disconnection from your body like that, Rachel is definitely someone who you should work with because this is not something that is easily done alone, this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Which is like why I actually got into this, because this whole work or this whole body of work is because I also like I was in a like physically abusive relationship for many years. I was raped, like I'm a survivor as well, and like a lot of my healing was kind of like trial and error. Like, maybe this will work, maybe this
Yeah.
will heal me, maybe talk therapy will work, maybe EMDR will work, maybe like fucking a ton of guys will work, maybe like maybe being like a lesbian for a little bit work. Like I was just like, I'll try
Trying it all,
anything.
seeing what
Like, I
sticks.
just want to heal. And so it's been like this, I mean, process of over almost 10 years now of me like learning how to heal. And so through that, I've like studied a lot of different bodies of work and figured out in my perspective like what really works for survivors and what helps women to heal and how to come back into our body, because after assault, after trauma on our body isn't safe. It's not a place you want to come back to. So like there are times with clients where literally we will spend an entire 2 sessions just with that like body meditation. Like,
Mm.
we're gonna feel our body move, we're gonna feel our breath move from our finger to our elbow, like, because it is that in and of itself is so intense to come back into your body. Like, I just like empathize with people so much, and I understand like some people would have to go really slow, and that's like the beauty about this whole work is that it's up to you how you want to heal, and I'm just here to facilitate it.
Mm. Yeah, I think I like wish I had known someone like you. I think like when I was deep in my healing like
Oh,
5 years ago, 6 years ago, it's really beautiful that like we now have so many coaches coming out there with specialties based on their own experience, their expertise, and really helping in this way because there are I don't know anybody really that's doing this work. I know maybe two people I can count on one hand, two people I know doing this kind of really important work for women.
yeah, I don't, and it's funny that you brought that up too, because one of the reasons I got into this was like this whole body of work was I was dating like my first serious partner after being assaulted, and it was like really, really hard. I know that you kind of
Mm,
mentioned this too, Gabby, and like it was, there were so many like miscommunications. I had so much anger, my body had anger, he had so much like, I don't understand why you're angry at me. I didn't do this to you, type of thing, right? Like, or trying to
I had a lot
understand.
of like rage in my body. Yeah.
So much rage in my body. Like, I wish that rage rooms were a thing 5 years ago because I should have gone like
Yes.
every day.
Girl, yes.
I
I
would
love
have just
rage
like,
rooms.
that would have been the best thing ever. And so I was
Yeah.
like, I want to teach, I want to like work with men and couples too to help men understand like if you're
Mm.
with a partner that has experienced this, how do you touch them? How do you have sex with them? How do you have intimacy? How do you understand them? So like that's
Mm.
another big part of my business too is like working with couples in this area like sexual unfulfillment in their relationship. And typically when I get down to the issue, there's some type of trauma there that's made this kind of like barrier between them. Um,
Wow.
and like it's so hard to explain those things to people, especially when you
Yeah.
don't have the language.
Communication and like yeah, it's that's also what it is. It's same with when people would come into work around trauma. It's like they don't have a language to explain what they're experiencing and it's
Right.
really working with that third party, that other person to kind of help mirror and reflect back to you what it is you're talking about to help you organize yourself. That
Yeah.
really helps you move forward in your journey. So you do, I didn't know you did
Yeah.
couples. That's
Right.
amazing. So you
Yeah.
do one-on-one and you do like
I
couples
do
work.
one-on-one in couples, and I work with men and women. Like really anyone. I get this question a lot, but yeah, anyone who like feels shame or trauma around sex and sexuality and wants to live an embodied, full, free life, like
Mhm.
I'm your person. Let's do it. Yeah. So that's how I work with people now, one-on-one or couples. And then I'm going to do that free pleasure challenge next week. So I'm going to create a document that you will have to sign up.
He's very excited about
He's
your
like, I'm so
challenge.
excited about this document.
Daddy,
I
come
can't
here.
wait to get it.
Yeah.
I am
He's signing
creating a
up.
little like document to go along with it. It's really just like a tracker. So if you have a tracker, you can use that too. But some people, I really like to write things down, especially when I'm creating a new habit. So I will create that and have that like emailed out to people that sign up. But I'll also just be going live every day, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I should say. And so those are the days I'll go live and I'll talk about the challenge, and you guys can like check in and tell me what you're doing because I love hearing about it and I want to hear everyone has pleasure. Everyone has
Yes.
pleasure.
We
Yeah.
are we are removing the curtains from pleasure. We are inviting it in and we are talking about it. And you guys,
Yes.
speaking of which, check out her podcast. It's called Let's Talk Pleasure. It gets into like the nitty gritty of all things sex and pleasure and her life and her exploits and experiences. And I fucking love it. It's so juicy. And then I love how you also talk about like your dates that you go on. And how like you told I remember you told me you're like whenever somebody comes into my house and we're about to have like an experience, I let them know like I'm gonna talk about you on my podcast.
I
And
do
I'm like,
because
you're
it's like
amazing.
you should probably know. Like obviously, I'm not going to give any descriptors. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I went out with this guy with brown hair and blue eyes, and he was 6'2", and he owns a
He
vegan
lives
cheese
in this
company, and
place.
like, no, I'll just be like, this. I had a lover that did this, but yes, I do tell everyone before we like jump into anything, just so they know, because like it is a part of my life, and I truly truly believe that people need to talk about this more because there's so much healing. Like secrets keep us sick, and that
Yeah,
applies to our sex and sexuality too.
Totally. Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. So go check out her podcast. Go sign up for her coaching. She has a couple of spots, I think, available both for couples or individuals, helping you reclaim your sexual power and getting back in touch in your body and healing from any kind of like trauma or different disconnections that have come as, you know, as a result of just life and all the things that happen to us and programming. And you couldn't be in better hands. I really, I know Rachel, I love her so much. She's been through so much of her own journey, and I think there's no one better to walk anybody through this process than you. So go fill out her application. She's fucking amazing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm like so emotional now. I'm gonna cry again, but I'm gonna go take a bath.
Oh man, well I think I'm really excited to see you get out there and do your thing. I'm really, really excited to see all the other people who follow in your footsteps as you kind of blaze this trail as one of the first to really dive into this kind of work. And yeah, I'm excited to see what you do.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to like continue this work and to continue to see people heal, because this is like such a pillar of healing that is really forgotten a lot of times and not prioritized. People prioritize like health or you know, therapy or coaching, life coaching, or like all these other things. But when it comes to like sex and sexuality, we don't prioritize it, and it's such a pillar of our health as a human being. So like, yes, absolutely. I'm excited to teach more people about this pillar and help heal.
Yes, I love it. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this live last minute with me. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned a few things. And of course, shoot a DM to Rachel. I'll drop her or tag her in this video, or drop a DM to me if you have any questions about anything you heard today. And we're here for you. You know, life is tough. Let's increase our pleasure and make it a little less strenuous.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks, Gabby.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.